Welcome back to War 3 News. This week we have an interesting list of possible things coming that may or may not be true. So be sure to hit the subscribe button. Let's talk about whether this is real or not. Now this list originally got shown off on the Russian VK blog that talks about War Thunder and has posted many leaked lists before. However, their accuracy is not always 100%. And it later found its way onto the official forum rumor roundup page in which people discussed and talked about this, and finally landed on the Reddit where more people discussed and talked about it. I guess I'm going to add to this chain by putting it in my video and discussing and talking about it. But before we jump right in here, I have a good feeling I know exactly where it comes from and what it is. So without further ado, let's talk about it and discuss it. Starting with a list of things coming to air vehicles. The first one was rank 7, possibly, which would make sense because the next patch coming up happens to be the Gamescom patch. Whether or not they're actually at Gamescom does not seem to be taken into account, but typically around this time they release something that is exciting, new, changing gameplay aspects. Like this is when they first announced Mach 2 jets and helicopters. And a new rank of aircraft would go really well with the next possibility, BVR, or Beyond Visual Range, referring to missiles that can shoot beyond the point in which you can see, which has been hinted at by Gaijin in the past. And after that is MiG-21 BIS, stated that a model exists and would be fitting, which is referring to a model of a MiG-21 that had been found that was at first presumed to be one of the current in-game ones, but upon further inspection had slight characteristics that were different than the ones currently in game, that were more matching of a MiG-21 BIS. Now I don't know too much about MiG-21s, so I can't really say on how well they're performing, but as far as I know, the BIS version is currently better than the ones we currently have in game. So if they were to add a new top tier MiG, the MiG-21 BIS would be the go-to, and perhaps following that could be other MiG variants like the 23. The final statement in this section is Italian helicopter tree, stated that it's confirmed to be coming around now, which would make a lot of sense. They did say the Italian helicopter was coming this year, and I believe it was British helicopters that did get released on a Gamescom patch. The next section is for ground, and it's a bit more interesting. First statement is the T-72B 1989 Contact 5 is confirmed. Now I believe this was confirmed in a Q&A that happened a bit ago that I did not cover because it was one of the most useless Q&As I've ever read. However, it did have one question that was kind of useful. I probably should have went over, stating that T90 and T72 variants were indeed coming. However, where people are getting the idea of this certain variant of the T72, I am unsure of. Perhaps it's in another Q&A that I forgot about. Following that is the Puma IFV. Model exists and would be fitting, which is true. There is a model of the Puma IFV that had the War Thunder logo attached to it, and it is presumed that it's going to be added to War Thunder eventually. So its introduction could very much be possible. Though I feel that there are some other vehicles that we should get before we get to the Puma, like some other German IFVs. Following that gets to some of the clickbait that I added here. T90, possible if no T90A, which would make a lot of sense. There's been a lot of rumors going around of a T90 to be added. In fact, one in the last shooting range video had popped up where they had something turn on 2 IR searchlights.
The developers get a strange fire in their eyes.
I wonder what that could be. Next one down is APS, or Active Protection System, which would be really interesting to see in game, and then something I'm kind of anticipating them adding. I wouldn't change vehicle combat too much, though it would be a very strong protection against helicopters. And I'm pretty sure some Swedish vehicles we currently have in game actually have active protection systems built into them. Following that is T90A if APS, which is kind of redundant. If they were to organize this list a bit better, they could put APS, T90A, T90 if no APS, or something like that. You could cut out a whole line of this and it would visually look better, it would read better. Following that is T72 BMP T1, which is stated to be highly likely, though I'm not exactly sure where they're getting the idea that it's highly likely. What this vehicle is the T72 Terminator. It's like the BMP 2M turret on a T72 chassis, and it looks very mean and definitely is very destructive against infantry. Not too sure how well it's going to face up against tanks, though it definitely could if it needed to. And finally for tanks was the Eclair S2, which is also stated to be highly likely, though I'm not entirely sure where the idea of highly likely is coming from. However, the S2 would be a new variant of the Eclair. Now personally, Eclairs are some of my favorite donuts, so having a new variant to be added to the Frenchy would be very nice. However, I still don't have the first Eclair. The ground section of this list ends with the Leopard 2A6, stating that it is likely. All I've heard about the Leo 2A6 is that it's super mega OP and would destroy the game, so I don't really know anything about it. The next section was for Naval, starting out saying that battle cruisers, heavily hinted in the file file since 1.93 is said to be confirmed in mid-2020. Scharnhorst in Alaska passed to devs, which is all true, so it would be possible to see a new generation of larger ships added, and there's some pretty cool battle cruisers out there. However, not every nation seems to have battle cruisers, so I guess you could just balance it on tonnage and not take into account what the navies called these ships. Following that was the Zara heavy cruiser that was in the files. The model exists and was shown off in the Starfighter trailer, as well as some Italian destroyers were shown in the same trailer. And then it says a Takeo heavy cruiser passed to devs along with other suspicious passation. What's a passation? That's not an English word, nor is it a Russian word. In fact, Google Translate tells me that it's a French word for handover. So I'm going to assume that what they meant here was passed over, as in other suspicious suggestions had been passed over. And those of you who are thinking this is definitely a legit Datamine leak, this should be a major red flag to you, because since when has Gaijin ever done anything with people who speak French, besides add the French tech tree? Final thing on the Naval list was yet another DM rework, which was posted in the Naval Q&A section on the forums. And the file segment was when you could expect some more dev blogs within 29 to 41 days. So that was the entire leak list, or Datamine as people are calling it. So now let's get to the truth of the matter. Is this actually a leak list like the ones we've seen in the past? I'm gonna bet on no. This is a list of rumored vehicles to come. You can see that straight out in the wording of the things, highly likely, possibly. My question is, why is it being passed around as if it is a official leak list? There are plenty of people who aren't exactly the most intelligent and will see a list of things and decide that, oh, this must be true, despite the fact that it's a rumor list. There's also the possibility that it was purposefully spread around because they wanted to get some kicks. And I have a feeling that might be the case because of somebody acting very suspicious on my Discord. My hypothesis is that this list originated from a user on my Discord's own private separate Discord, and for some maximum kicks, he decided, or someone in his Discord decided, to link this to the Russian VK blog that commonly posts leak lists. Regardless if it was him or someone else, he seems to be capitalizing on the kicks and following this list wherever it goes. Perhaps even you'll be able to find him in the comments of this very video. However, overall the list actually is pretty accurate in its statements. There is a good likelihood that a majority of these we could find in upcoming patches. However, none of them are necessarily confirmed for whatever the next patch is going to be called. That is my own personal take, but also is the take of Smin1080p. Now, he also denies that there are any leaks at all, which is not true, my dear friend. There's some videos I have that disagree, but as a TLDR for the situation, you can't trust people with anime profile pics, especially the ones that speak French. And yes, I know One Shot is a game, not an anime, but it's the same idea. Now, they go back on some of the things they were talking about. A lot of that does come from pretty solid sources. But what's not so much of a solid source is this rumor going around about the shooting range in which they showed some sort of vehicle, or at least two IR lights turn on towards a vehicle. People are suspecting this to be a T-90. And from my investigation, or at least staring at it enough, it doesn't entirely look like a T-90. Like, you have to take into account, the tank is a good 200 meters away. And if it were to be in a T-90, the lights would be closer together, as the turret of the T-90, where the lights are located, is the same size as the T-72 that we have here. So if it was that far away, would the lights appear to be that spread apart from this distance, as when things are further away, they seem to be smaller? But also, if you look at the image right before the lights turn on, you'll notice that there seems to be a pretty large body taking up that area. See, I suspect that this isn't a T-90, isn't actually in fact two separate tanks with IR lights turning on at the same time, because the context of the video, they're talking about fire in their eyes, so they want to make it look like there's eyes in the distance. So I'm not going to say that the T-90 is not coming in the next patch. I have a feeling that we can expect it soon, but I'm going to say that this is not proof of a T-90 coming. And to close out this video, there was a substantial update that had a lot of minor tweaks and balances. The ones that I'd like to bring attention to is the Chiha shotgun had a change to its explosive type, making the TNT equivalent from 2.52 to 2.63 kilograms, gaining a whole 1 millimeters of penetration. It actually can do a lot of 30 millimeter plates, but not as many 31 millimeter plates. The Churchill Mark I had an increase to its max speed from 27 kilometers per hour to 28, so watch out for this speed demon. The AMX-10 RC had finally been changed from SPG to light tank. Took you guys a while. One that actually is really nice to hear is the Kugelblitz had a increase to its turret traverse from 25 to 60 degrees per second, which is quite substantial. It'll make it a much better spag. However, the more interesting one is that a list of armored cars had a change to their engine sound and now have an engine sound based off the BRMD2, which introduces the idea maybe they're going to add the BRMD2, as they already have the engine sounds, and why would they choose this vehicle of all the possible vehicles to get these engine sounds? However, the most substantial change was found in the data mines, in which the Romanium EULA was added and then subsequently removed. And to close this video, first I'd link my Patreons and YouTube members, starting with the Patreons, Asuka Blet Edi Nahwe, thank you very much, as well as the YouTube members, Nico Korkamaki, I like them thick, Mehmet Hazarchi, Joe Plopsky, Tex, One Max, Roger Rammer, Grimace, Mighty Peppers, Pointless Gun 6, and Waffly Joker 6. A big thank you to all of you. YouTube members and Patreons get access to videos a little bit early, unique Discord channel, and YouTube members precisely get access to live stream emojis. I can't really give that to patrons. So if you're interested in any of that, be sure to hit one of the links below. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, be sure to hit the like button. If any comments, concerns, hit me up down below or on my Discord. If you want to see any more, I make War Thunder Weekly news videos every Sunday. I make reviews throughout the week, and I like to stream on Saturdays. So be sure to hit the bell icon to be notified anytime I upload anything. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. In the terms of bonus news, probably the worst way to relay any information to me is through YouTube comments, as YouTube doesn't actually notify me of every single comment that shows up here. So I found myself oftentimes shifting through the comments to be able to read them all, hoping that I did get them all. Because sometimes those comments have some pretty interesting information in them.